Ohio State must treat their road game at Maryland as a must-win game for the Buckeyes to get closer to cementing their spot in the NCAA Tournament.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to this bonus episode of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the number one sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And during this Hardwood Huddle, we will discuss players that need to step up and play big for the Buckeyes to beat the Terrapins. But first, the Buckeyes have an opportunity tonight to get closer to cementing their spot in the NCAA tournament. And the Buckeyes also control their own destiny, as there are teams right now that are mathematically out of the race to make the field of 68. The Buckeyes are being projected to make the field, but also trending in the opposite direction. So when you're trending in the opposite direction, you should lean into what people believe about you while also laying it all on the line and treating every game like a must-win game to cement your spot in the NCAA tournament. And I say the Buckeyes have an opportunity to cement their spot in the NCAA tournament because they are able to not only raise their level of play, but sometimes they can dictate the terms of the game. So they are the aggressor. They are the ones in control. Too many times this year, we've talked about it, about like the game against Nebraska and the game against Michigan, where sometimes the Buckeyes raise their own level of play and they played better than anybody expected. Well, there were also times, the Minnesota game, which was a win, but the Buckeyes didn't dictate the terms. And Maryland tonight is not good. They are a team that has been struggling of late. They are 8-13 overall this season. They're 1-9 in league play. They are 16th in the Big Ten. Counter that with Ohio State being 14-7, 6-5 in league play. The Buckeyes are number 9 in the conference. And by the numbers, if you look out and compare team stats from each team, no matter if it's points per game, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, rebounds, you can go on there and compare all the stats. The Buckeyes on paper are better. But one thing we know about Ohio State and just basketball in general, sometimes things that happen on paper are not the way things happen on the court. And so we can even look at FanDuel and what FanDuel's number is. They're going to predict the Buckeyes to win the game too. But the difference is the Buckeyes can't lean into those things. With Bruce Thornton and Devin Royal and John Mobley Jr., those players and Amari Bynum, that's a fearsome foursome that the Buckeyes have that can do a lot of things offensively. But defensively, it's where sometimes there are mental lapses, and the Buckeyes down the stretch against Wisconsin didn't get key stops. I believe at the end of the first half, there were 5+ possessions, straight possessions, where Wisconsin scored. And Ohio State, where they can have high energy and they can communicate at a high level on defense, they don't do it at the rate that they need to. Which is why tonight you go to Maryland, you go on the road, play in a place that you don't normally have success, but Maryland is not that good team this year. So while you haven't been successful, you can lean into what they are this year and take advantage of the weaknesses. If you go out there and win this game, this is going to build confidence heading into the game this Sunday against Michigan. That's a 1 o'clock tip-off, and I believe that game's on CBS. And throughout the rest of the season, there are some very difficult games, but there are games that if the Buckeyes play like they can and lay it all on the line, they can get the necessary number of wins. You need to get at least 6 wins down the rest of the season. The Buckeyes have 10 regular season games left. I don't really care about what happens in the Big Ten tournament because the pollsters, the committee members are going to look at down the stretch, who did Ohio State play? How many quad one wins do they have? Are they worthy of making the field of 68? And right now I'm trending towards no, but they can make me change my mind and change my opinion on this team making the field of 68. You got to beat Maryland tonight. This is the most winnable game on the schedule throughout the rest of the season. Maryland is not good. Like I said earlier, they are the number. Well, you play Penn State too, so that's a very winnable game. That's say one of the 2 winnable games down the stretch is this weekend at Maryland, and then on March 4th they go to play at Penn State, which can be not so much a tricky place, like a hostile environment, but it's just a place that you don't normally have success at times, but the Buckeyes can win this game tonight at Maryland, home against Michigan, home against UCLA. They have the rare mid-February non-conference game against Virginia. That's in Nashville on Valentine's Day. They have a home game against Wisconsin, at Michigan State, at Iowa, home against Purdue, at Penn State, and their last regular season game is at home against IU. There are multiple winnable games down the stretch. One of them is tonight. And the Buckeyes must play like this is a must-win game, lay it on the line, like their backs are up against the wall to make sure they secure this W and get closer to cementing their spot in the NCAA tournament. For the Buckeyes to cement their spot in the NCAA tournament, there are multiple players that must step up and play big tonight on the road. We will discuss who those players are after the break.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Number 1 ranked UConn dominated Tennessee 96-66, turning a halftime tie into a historic win and avenging last season's loss by delivering the largest margin in the rivalry's history. AZ Fudd had 27 points and Sarah Strong added 26 as the Huskies remain perfect on the season, reminding everyone why they are the reigning national champions. In the Big Ten, number 2 UCLA rolled past number 8 Iowa 88-65, powered by 22 points from Angela Dukelich and a huge advantage in the paint, staking their claim as a national threat. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. This episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Gametime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast. Without the hassle, it puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. I pulled up Gametime, picked an upcoming NBA game, and had tickets locked in within minutes. I love seeing the all-in price up front, no surprise fees at checkout, and being able to see the view from my seat before buying made the decision easy. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. So tonight's game against Maryland is very, very big for multiple reasons. Not only is it a league game, it's in the final full month of the regular season, but also the Buckeyes must play like their backs up against the wall, like they're laying it all on the line for them to make the NCAA tournament. And for them to do so tonight, there are multiple players that must step up and play big for the Buckeyes to secure a big road win. The first one is a big man, 7'2", 40, listed at 225, was 240 at one point. It's Kristoff Tilly. And I know there are a lot of people that are very critical of his play because he is more tall man than big man. But tonight, you're going to need him to play up to his averages. in points and rebounds. He averages 11.7 points a game and 5.1 rebounds a game. You're going to need him to be there because the Buckeyes are not a great rebounding team. You would think that Tilly or Ivan or even Brandon Knoll, not sure if he's back tonight or not, but you would expect that one of them would be able to be a really good rebounder. They don't have a great rebounder. The high rebound man on the season and averages at 5.7 rebounds a game with Devin Royal. The second highest per game average in rebounds is Bruce Thornton at 5.4. Just to give you a quick snapshot about how the rebounding has been for this team this year. But Kristoff Tilly, to me, if he goes and just matches his averages, 11 points a game and 5 rebounds a game, you're going to allow there to be less pressure on Bruce Thornton tonight when he's leading the team because he can trust his big man to put the ball in the basket. I hope that at some point this year, at least down the stretch, you get Kristoff Tilly to be great off the dribble and his downtown shot starts to fall at a high clip because that's the pressure that is, if he does that, the pressure that has been on Thornton and Mobley and Royal and Bynum to really be the guys, there's less pressure on them because Tilly is providing the necessary points and productivity on the court to allow the Buckeyes to be better offensively. A few others are just a couple players that, to me, don't get talked about a lot, but if they play big, this is going to be huge for the Buckeyes, not just tonight, but it's going to help them build confidence down a really grueling stretch in February into early March. Taison Chatman, Ivan, I still struggle with his last name, then Gabe Cupps, guys off the bench. If you're able to go on the road and your bench is able to provide 10 to 15 points, and that can be spread out between those three players there, that's a step in the right direction because there have been numerous times this year where the Buckeyes bench hasn't really been that productive. It's been a problem, and opponents know when those guys are on the court, they're not going to do anything productive as far as putting the ball in the basket, and that plays into the other team's game plan to allow them to be the aggressor and to really score at a high clip and to either make a lead bigger or to shrink the deficit because the guys off the bench really aren't the scorers you need them to be. 10 points at minimum. And you may say, yeah, that's not a lot. No, it's not. But sometimes you don't get that production from the guys off the bench. You may get quality minutes where they can allow other guys to get rest, especially if they're in foul trouble, but you don't get the points in the basket. You don't get the assists. You don't get the rebounds. You don't get those signs of that being a part of their game when they're on the court, which is a big reason why Ohio State is trying to find a way to get into the tournament. As I think about tonight's game, and I think back to Jake Diebler's time as the interim head coach and how the Buckeyes simply found a way. They had a never quit mentality. Thinking back to the game against Purdue when Purdue was highly ranked and the Buckeyes were overmatched. They weren't the more talented team. They didn't even have the better coach in that game. But the Buckeyes found a way to win. And Diebler's high energy, the excitement, the way that he is on the sidelines and in practice, that carried over into the game, and it was a recipe for success. Well, that needs to happen now. Forget what's happened previously. You cannot look back and say, well, January and December, those weren't good months. You can't look back there. You must look at tonight, the here and now, and say, like in football, it's a one-game season. If we take care of business tonight, we are looking ahead to Sunday and saying we must take care of business Sunday as well. The benefit of Sunday's game against Michigan is that's at home in the shot. You're not going to Ann Arbor for back-to-back road games. It's a road game at Maryland. Get to come home, sleep in your own bed, and then get ready for a big-time rivalry game on national TV where the Buckeyes and the Wolverines play on Sunday. As I look ahead, the players can't. The players got to focus on tonight and make sure that Tilly and Chatman and Ivan and Cupps are key contributors tonight so that they can help take the pressure off of Bruce Thornton, the leader, to help the Buckeyes win a big road game in the Big Ten, leading into Sunday's game against your rival, the team up north. Thank you for tapping in at today's afternoon episode of Locked On Buckeyes. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317 at gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Thursday afternoon. We'll see you next time.